Welcome back, everyone. We have now heard the oral arguments in the Boston bombing case, although the wheels came off pretty quick. I think I'm the only one on this. Let's go to the control room here, and
well,
whether or not...
to convince me that maybe he should be fried up when he compared him to the other 19-year-olds.
Thank you. Stop with the age. All right, jury, control room, which one is it? Does he deserve the death penalty or not?
Good.
God. All right.
Thank you. Like
well, Jimmy and Doug. You might as well put Doug's face in there. He didn't even get through the opening arguments before he said, by the way, I'm not for this. All right. It's TV. Play along. All right. We switch gears right now to a police shooting in North Charleston, which is in South Carolina. It all started when Officer Michael Slager pulled Walter Scott over for a broken taillight. Officer says he used a taser on Scott after he also found out that there was unpaid child support payments. Scott then, he claims, tried to grab that taser and run. Well, the shooting happened on Saturday, but murder charges were not filed against the officer until a few days later, and that is when this video of the killing surfaced. Now, if you make it out there, you can see the victim clearly running away. His back clearly turned to the officer. He was unarmed. This was not a single shot. There were multiple shots that were fired. The officer said he feared for his life after Scott took his taser. But from the video, that certainly looks more than a little skeptical. And if you pay closer attention to the video, at one point the officer goes over the body, and it appears as if he is dropping something right there on the scene. If you look carefully, hard to deduct from this video here, but it looks as if he was dropping what appeared to be a taser that was dropped by his side. Okay, again, unclear. This will come out, but this much we do know. The officer white, Mr. Scott was black, and in fact that community, mostly minorities, and 47% I believe of the population is African American, 30-some-odd% white, the balance other. We already do know at this point that the officer has now been terminated, and we are also learning that murder charges are being pressed against that officer, and the police department in North Charleston has made it very clear here that once they've seen the video, that they believe the actions reaching the threshold of murder, and moreover, there will be no job for this officer, and he is being held without bail. All right. Mayo, to me, what jumped out at me was, where was the video? And imagine if there was no video. There was no body cameras on this officer. And help us out here. You deal with a lot of cases, obviously, where race is a major component to this. You worked in the prosecutor's office before your work as a defense attorney right now. I was under the impression the vast majority of police departments are all using body cameras. Would I be wrong? Oh,
no, absolutely wrong. Really, it's the tip of the iceberg.
You could have just said wrong, but go ahead. Yeah.
The number of departments that are starting to do it is increasing, but that's largely in response to what happened in Ferguson. And then there are those who, on both sides, who think that the body cameras are not going to be effective. And some people believe that the fact that there was no indictment in Mr. Garner's case means it's not effective. And I think that they're missing the point. The point is that without the video, we would have never been discussing Mr. Garner. We would have never been discussing what happened in South Carolina, because all we would have heard is that this man went for the officer's gun, that the or taser, and that the officer was defending himself, when clearly video here shows that it's absolutely the opposite of that.
And we should be clear, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the video came from just a person in the neighborhood who recorded it on Saturday, really was conflicted about coming forward and turning over to the authorities because he was concerned about what ramifications might happen to him, finally turned it over. But in the absence of this video, we probably wouldn't be looking at any charges, right?
How can that be? There's shots to the back.
And there's a dashboard camera.
He shot him in the back.
Yeah, but Jim, worse things than that happen all the time, and that's why you need independent investigation and independent prosecution.
The state's handling it.
But that's in this case.
Right.
Lots of cases that doesn't happen. Lots of cases that officer's brother and sister officers would be investigating the case. We don't know what would have happened to that phone. Sometimes that phone would have been taken from this guy, and he might have been arrested also, and they would have claimed that he was resisting arrest. There are no other witnesses out there, and generally people tend to believe the police.
It's dangerous to lump all of these cases together in a big
talking about
ball.
cases that I'm not lumping anything in together. I'm talking about cases we've actually been involved with where, you know, this is what happens. You have a phone that's been taken, and you know that phone was taken because the video is in the cloud.
But on this point, it looks like the North Charleston PD handled it right in terms of they went to the right authorities.
Yes.
Then the video surfaced, and they immediately didn't do any, well, let's see. They fired the guy. They're charging with murder. They're not letting him out.
They said they arrested him an hour after receiving the video. An hour after
Right,
receiving the
but
video.
what I'm suggesting, and it's not an aspersion on the department itself, what I'm saying is that most police departments are going to tend to believe their officers. So without that video, chances are they would not have charged this officer. They would have gone with his narrative unless there were independent witnesses who felt comfortable enough coming out to this same police department that they have to turn to later if they need assistance.
Coming from this side of the table, from just the TV guy, this story, this narrative has dominated the past year, okay? Whether it's in Staten Island, whether it's in Missouri. There was an
because you guys are driving it. And imagine the thousands and thousands of citizen police encounters that occur in this country.
But this is where I
every
take
day.
issue with that,
Every
okay?
day.
99% of cops, whatever number we want to say, are good. However, what about, this is a perfect example. If this didn't come out with the video, right? How would we have read this if it was in the paper? And now you're in the community. I mentioned the breakout.
You have a First Amendment right to use the cell phones and videotape the police in action, so long as you're not obstructing.
But you're missing my point. You're missing my point. It's not, the broader point is there is a distrust in communities. This amplifies it out there where people say, see, if we didn't say the video, this cop would have walked. Whether he would have or he wouldn't have.
Three cases.
Well, it's more than that.
No, but these are the ones that's driving the narrative. Ferguson, Staten Island, and this one. How many thousands upon thousands of citizen police encounters occur in this country every day? You can't even number them.
Understood.
And the vast majority of them occur without incident.
Understood, but wait a minute, Mark. How many years have we been practicing together? How many years was it in the Heights that clients would come to us and say, I'm telling you, they come in, they take the money, they do this, they do that, and we look at them like they have three heads, and then the 30-30 scandal comes out, a case where I was lawyers for one of those officers, and we find out that it's rampant.
Look, there's endemic corruption in certain police departments. There's no question about it. The blue wall of silence exists. But, you know, citizen police encounters are volatile, they're rapidly evolving, and they're dangerous. And it's very difficult for someone, and I'm no great fan of police officers, but at the same time, it's not my job, and it's very, very difficult for me to put myself in their place, and that's why courts stay out of second-guessing.
But Mark, I don't think it's difficult to put yourself in the place of this officer.
None of us knows what happened.
I can tell you this: the man fired 8 shots.
I don't know if it matters or
Mark,
not.
the man fired 8 shots as the man ran away, and at that point, he clearly was not in fear.
This video looks horrible.
At that point,
this video looks horrible. Well, what precipitated it? Where's the film from the stop?
See, I'm just telling you.
Camera. I want to
this
see
is
the
what
film.
I know about. I know what it looks like on the other side of the TV, and they saw Tamir Rice, okay, 13-year-old kid with a pop gun, right? Cop pulls out, 2 seconds later, guns him down. One of the worst things was in South Carolina, the guy didn't have a seatbelt on, right? He's reaching for his ID.
And wait. 20 years ago, the whole thing was concocted.
But my point is,
just let the facts come out at a trial.
No. But that's totally apples and oranges. Yeah. The fact is, people are seeing in live Technicolor, okay, what things are going, and they're extrapolating, Mark, as to where it goes from here. So this is the toughest question I have at all. If the police force in North Charleston, okay, is 80% white, which it is, the population about half black, 1/3 white. Do we have to get to a point where the police department is more representative of the community? I'm talking quotas. I'm talking where they have to have residency requirements. I can see cops, and by the way, I'm a big fan of cops, okay? So, and I also think it's easy to sit in a nice comfy studio to say what you do. I get all that. But if anybody thinks the status quo is going to prevail, you're so delusional. Look, the heightened awareness for these incidents, every time something happens, what happens when there's not video and there's another questionable shooting? People fill in the gaps.
There are states where it's illegal for you to videotape the police. There are states where it's illegal for you to videotape the police. Why would that possibly be?
No, it's a First Amendment right. You can't use the video to obstruct.
You can challenge that in federal court.
And you also know, Mayo, it doesn't matter. If there's video, it's got to come out. What are they going to do?
Oh, no, because there's video that gets destroyed. And I have many clients who have had their phones taken from them. The phone is destroyed. Phone is taken.
But they're going to wrap me up on time. I'm coming to a bigger point that you should answer.
In New York City, the police department is not all white.
But Mayo is in the living room of a lot of these families who have grievances, okay?
Right.
And you see these stories, Mayo, from last year to this year, and I can imagine you're hearing, I told you so. not maybe to you, which already knew, but to a lot of people, see, I told you so. See? How is next year better than this year?
Well, I think first we have to stop with the suggestion that when you're critical of a particular officer that you're anti-police, because nobody here has said that. Nobody's saying that, and Tawana Brawley shouldn't come into this conversation. It has nothing to do with what's happened here. What we're looking at is this officer, this person's conduct. We don't know anything about the rest of the department, and it appears that they have done everything they should be doing. They went to visit the family, which is a nice gesture. I thought it was great. So no one's saying they're against police, but what they're saying is that the laws have to be applied evenly, and it doesn't matter that you have a badge and a gun. That does not give you immunity from being prosecuted. And the other thing is that if you want people of all races, by the way, because you can find white people who've died at the hands of law enforcement, and you find black officers who also engage in misconduct. So it's not an issue primarily about race. It's an issue about power, about screening your candidates, about getting someone who is psychologically prepared to be a police officer, and that's not every candidate, and making sure that you train people and that you don't look the other way when you get complaint after complaint from the same officers.
Maybe you have to pay them more and give them better benefits.
Hey, but how do you have 80% white police force in a situation? I mean, why aren't there residency requirements? Where are they coming from?
I don't think in New York City that the police force is 80% white.
No, we're talking about
wait, there's still rampant mistrust of police among minorities in New York City, and they're not 80% white. So I'm not sure that what Rich is
and I don't know that there's a simple answer. The only thing I do know is we're in a different world than we were a year ago, and the tension is palpable. You can speak to it better than me, and if anybody believes cosmetic changes will address this,
do you think the tension is worse than in 1968? I mean, come on.
No, but there's a difference.
It's not racial, the tension
in 1968,
now. The tension now is racial tension.
People didn't turn on the TV, or more importantly, didn't take out their phones and then share it with the world. I got to hit a break, guys. I'm sorry here. And I want to get to this next one here because you guys are going to tell me about my business, which is the media, specifically Rolling Stone. A lot of hot water over. It's now a retracted story about the rape on campus at the University of Virginia fraternity. But was it just sloppy reporting, or is it libel against the fraternity who is now suing the magazine? We'll be back with that after this.